What is up, race fans? This is the Nitro Racing Series on HSL Diecast channel. We're in for a treat today. It's 6 laps per segment. We're at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Red Soda 600. It's going to be a great race today. 6 laps per segment, 4 segments with 5 cars. The cars are going to be crowded on the track, flying down at breakneck speeds. It's going to be awesome. We're going to start with our pole sitter, Matt Kenseth, in segment 1. Next to him is David Green. There's Bill Elliott, Bubba Wallace, and Ricky Craven. And Bill Elliott gets underneath Matt Kenseth, undercuts his back bumper until all 4 of his wheels are off the track, and he completely loses control. Pole sitter's out of the race, lap 1. Huge El Reco. 0 for 2 with DNFs so far this season for Matt Kenseth. If you look at the track, there's a little bit of difference from qualifying if you notice them going around the track. One of the delivery vans from qualifying is gone. That is because I looked at it and realized it was not a cheap dollar store car, but rather an original Corgi casting from the 70s, and it's worth a lot of money, so I didn't want to get it damaged. Anyway, here's lap 2. David Green now takes over first place. Bubba Wallace gets a better start. Looks like he's going to beat him into the turn. David Green, Bubba Wallace, neck and neck. David Green picks up some speed, forces Bubba Wallace into the wall, and David Green drives off the track in a straight line and lands on his roof. Unbelievable. David Green in a straight line has this segment on lock, and he just blows it on lap 2. Bad points day for him, and he needed a good main event appearance to even sniff the top 12 in points. That is very unfortunate. Couldn't drive to the finish line in a straight line. Now Bubba Wallace takes off. He's leaving the other 2 red cars in the dust for lap 3, and Ricky Craven uses his vehicle's heavier weight to pass Bill Elliott for second place heading into lap 4. And the gate is down. The inside lane had a really fast start compared to Ricky Craven there. Bill Elliott overtakes him for second, and the way Bubba Wallace has been driving today, looks like this segment will be a competition for second place. Bubba Wallace is pulling away. He's got like a 2-3 car length lead over Bill Elliott, and Ricky Craven slowly trudges behind them. It's a 2-car race for second place. This is lap 5 of 6. Bubba Wallace. Bill Elliott gets another great start over Ricky Craven. And he's getting a lot of pushback from the gate, which doesn't make much sense because he's a heavy car. But it's been clean racing ever since David Green took himself out. And another clean lap as they cross the finish line. 1 more to go here. It's Bubba Wallace. Bill Elliott elects to start behind him in the inside lane. It's a bit of a gamble here, but looks like it paid off. He had some momentum coming out of the gate, and he turns around, makes a recovery, starts driving in reverse, and it's going to be a 1-2-3 clean finish for segment number 1 after David Green and Matt Kenseth exit the race. And Bill Elliott really needed that to maintain his spot in the top 12. He'll be racing in the seconds race. And now it's time for, this looks like the All-Star segment. All 4 of our race winners so far in here. There's no drivers outside the top 12, and even Todd Bodine's won several poles. And it looks like Jimmy's not going to add victory number 2 to his resume today. That's a single-car self-inflicted El Reco. Loses control where the track transitions from Hot Wheels track into Fat Track. Hits the barrier, and that's a first lap DNF. Horrible points day for him as the downward spiral continues. And now it's time for lap 2. Todd Bodine maintains the lead here. Ross Chastain in second. Alan Kulwicki and Sterling Marlin make up the back row. And Todd Bodine has a decent start out the gate. Ross Chastain coming up for second. He pushes Chastain into the wall. Kulwicki passes Marlin for third, but Marlin comes back, and the order does not really change there. Some clean racing by the series front runners. Now it's time for lap 3. Kulwicki gets under Chastain, but Chastain recovers, speeds up before anything bad could happen, and now we have Sterling Marlin going to push for second place. These 2 teammates with the same nearly identical castings will be starting the next lap on the front row. More clean racing from these professional drivers. That's why 3 out of these 4 drivers are in the top 5 in points, because they don't make dumb mistakes like some of the people in the last segment. And Todd Bodine continues the lead here. He really needs this to stay in the top 12 in points. He's definitely the underdog this segment, despite having the fastest car, as this will only be his second main event appearance of the season if he wins this segment. And Sterling Marlin gets a shove back into 4th place because he went off the track there, stayed on his wheels. And oh my gosh, Todd Bodine just leapt out of that start gate like a bat out of hell. I had never seen anybody jump out of there that fast before. Chastain tries to make a move on the outside. Bodine throws a block, and he throws another block, and he blocks up the whole track to lead lap 5. And now it's time for the final lap. We've seen Todd Bodine come in leading on the final lap of these segments plenty of times before and choked it away, but this time it looks like he got off to a great start. Chastain and Kulwicki are fighting over second place there. Looks like Kulwicki got the upper hand for a second. Todd Bodine is pulling away from them, and he is going to go to the main event. Ross Chastain in second, Kulwicki third, and Sterling Marlin an uncharacteristic 4th. But that's the most stacked segment I've ever seen, so somebody would have had to come in 4th. Now here is segment 3. Jeremy Mayfield just flies off for the lead here, and nobody's going to catch up with him. Richard Petty's in second place, but he doesn't really have enough to catch him, I don't think, and his lead expands. It's like half the track length lead to lead for the first lap. Richard Petty comes in second, Jeff Fuller third, and Pete Hamilton in 5th there. Now it is time for lap 2. Jeremy Mayfield led the first lap in pretty convincing fashion. He gets a good lead out of the start gate, has a full car length over Richard Petty before he even gets off the single tracks. And that's going to be another easy lap led for Mayfield. Jeff Fuller, Richard Petty racing for second. It looks like Jeff Fuller is going to take second place from Richard Petty on lap 2. And now it's time for lap 3. Jeremy Mayfield still in first. Jeff Fuller moved up to second. But Jeremy Mayfield has a pretty heavy car pushing him. And Pete Hamilton wrecks at the start gate, slides halfway down the track on his roof. He is out of the race. Another horrible DNF for Pete Hamilton, as Jeremy Mayfield has been completely dominant in this segment, and Jeff Fuller and Richard Petty are just beating each other up for second place at this point. Now it's time for lap 4. One less pusher for Jeremy Mayfield, but it doesn't matter. Jeremy Mayfield gets a full car length advantage over Richard Petty. Gets a little squirrely there. And it looks like an El Reco for Richard Petty and Jeff Fuller. Richard Petty and Jeff Fuller are out of the race. That is a double DNF. A double DNF for Petty and Fuller. Both of them are clinging on to top 12 point spots. And that is not what they needed to see here. Especially with E. Marshall in this segment very close to the top 12 in points. If Jeremy Mayfield makes a mistake in these last couple laps, and that car has not been very sturdy this season, that could be disaster for Jeff Fuller. As you can see, the camera's panning into the wreckage. And now it's a 2-car race for this segment. There won't be anybody going to the thirds race. Jeremy Mayfield and E. Marshall, both of them have had several DNFs this year. And it looks like smooth driving from Mayfield, who has a clearly faster car. And for the final lap, Jeremy Mayfield has this all but in the bag. He's heading to back-to-back main event appearances if he can avoid a costly mistake on this lap. And he has a full car length and a half lead heading into the turn. This one is all but over. And yep, Jeremy Mayfield doesn't seem to be wrecking. He is into the main event for the second time in a row. His season's really turning around. And now we have Vinny Nightlife starting on the pole for this segment over Johnny Benson and a bunch of back markers. And it's a very tight pack heading into the turn. This is not a restrictor plate track, but they could have fooled me this lap. And Vinny Nightlife throws a block to keep the lead heading into lap 2. And as you can see the camera pan in, Rusty Wallace got around Martin Truex for third. Johnny Benson had some trouble beached on the wall. And for lap 2, Vinny Nightlife gets a lead coming out of the gate. He and Kaz Gralla are neck and neck going into the turn. More tight pack racing as if it was a restrictor plate track. And Vinny Nightlife seems to get the advantage, kind of pushes Kaz Grala into the wall and throws a block for the second lap in a row. It's very close there, but it looks like Grala held off Rusty Wallace for second place. The running order has not changed. And now it's time for lap 3. Vinny Nightlife has the advantage of having 2 pushers instead of 1. Martin Truex's car is not very heavy. And Vinny gets a good start, but a bump from Rusty Wallace gets him a little loose. He recovers. Neck and neck again going into the turn, and this time Kaz Grala has the advantage. Vinny Nightlife's got to play catch-up. Kaz Grala has a fast casting. He pushes Kaz Grala over the finish line as Kaz Grala, who's barely out of last place in points and was facing disqualification if he didn't make this race, is now leading his segment halfway through. And trouble for Vinny Nightlife. Trouble for Vinny Nightlife. Rusty Wallace taps him again. He is on his roof and out of the race. Kaz Grala is outrunning the rest of the field as Vinny Nightlife's much anticipated debut comes to a disappointing end. Must still be hungover after that flight from Australia, all the plane partying he did, but if the camera pans in on the damage, it will not be a good points day for him to start off his career in the Nitro Racing Series. And the story of this segment is Kaz Grala, smooth as butter so far, come out of nowhere with a big lead with just a lap and a half to go of this segment. Johnny Benson and Martin Truex fighting each other for second place just makes his lead even bigger. And it looks like Martin Truex might get past Johnny Benson, but Benson beats him for second place by a bumper length. Rusty Wallace tagging behind in fourth. And 1 lap to go for this incredible underdog story, Kaz Grala. Incredible underdog story developing. Martin Truex makes a pass on Johnny Benson for second place. It'll be a decent points day for him too. And Kaz Grala going to the main event. His first race back since finishing dead last in the Daytona 500. Tied for last place in points with Morgan Shepherd and Stacy Compton. Kaz Grala, your segment winner. Now this is a third and fourth race. A lot of big names here. Johnny Benson, Alan Kulwicki, Sterling Marlin. Benson, Kulwicki, and Ricky Craven finished third in their segments. Marlin and Rusty Wallace finished fourth. A lot of big names who are usually in the seconds race or the main event in this one. And Alan Kulwicki has a pretty good lead in that first lap. Now it's time for lap 2 of the thirds and fourths race. Holy cow, that inner lane exited the gate fast. Rusty Wallace is about to pass Johnny Benson before he gets bullied. That was one of the fastest laps. These guys are saying, we don't belong in this race. We're going to prove it to them. Alan Kulwicki to the seconds race. Sterling Marlin second place. Salvages some of those points. And now Bill Elliott, Ross Chastain leading the seconds race to the green. And Bill Elliott throws a block to try and protect his lead for lap 2 and get into the main event. And that is not going to work. Ross Chastain and E. Marshall just plow him over. That's an El Reco. Bill Elliott's day ends bottom half of the top 10, but making it to the seconds race should at least buffer his points a little bit. Finally, a somewhat decent day for him, and yeah, this one's over. It's going to be Ross Chastain. He throws a block on Martin Truex, somehow still gains speed from it as they fight over second place in the back. Yep, called it halfway through. Ross Chastain to the main event after that pro wrestling move with E. Marshall. And in this main event, we got 4 guys looking for their first career win. Todd Bodine and Jeremy Mayfield. And Kaz Grala's trip to the main event is a short one. He is on his roof. He will be getting 5th place. But you still got to be proud of him winning a segment after being dead last in points for 5 weeks in a row. Todd Bodine with a huge lead in that first lap. And it looks like Bubba Wallace got ahead of Ross Chastain for third there. You have Bodine and Mayfield leading the field down for lap number 2. Ross Chastain looking to build on his already huge points lead. And he gets underneath Mayfield for second place. Tries to get underneath Bodine as well, but decides to save it for the next lap. There's still 4 more to go. He'll have plenty of time to try and get up there and beat these guys. Mayfield in third, Wallace in fourth. Now it's time for lap 3. Pack looks pretty tight coming out of the gate and heading onto the fat track. They're still very close together. And Todd Bodine takes the lead again. Chastain's got his hands full blocking Jeremy Mayfield, and Todd Bodine is taking full advantage of that. He has a huge lead halfway through the final segment here. And the outer row gets some pushback from the gate. Bubba Wallace starting to lose some speed here. Mayfield's trying to duck underneath Chastain to get second place, and he wrecks himself in the attempt. Bodine throws a block, keeps the lead. Jeremy Mayfield is out of the race, won't get a podium, and will need to do a little more work to get into the top 12 in points. Disappointing end for him after looking fast all week. Now 2 to go. These are going to be your podium finishers. Does Ross Chastain have anything for Bodine? Does Bubba Wallace have anything for him? And Bubba Wallace gets neck and neck with Ross Chastain, but Chastain throws a block, and now he's solidly in second place. Nobody's been able to stop Todd Bodine all day. 1 lap to go. Todd Bodine has been perfect so far in his segment in the main event. He's had quite a reputation as a choke artist so far in this series, but 1 lap to go. Is he going to get his first career win? Ross Chastain's coming up right next to him in the curb. Bodine throws a block. There's no separation at all. And he's sliding sideways, and Todd Bodine wins. Congratulations to Mark D. from Cut Rock Creek Racing for guessing the winner correctly. Chastain holds on for second place. He was not holding anything back on that lap to try and pass Todd Bodine, but he was not going to be denied today. Look how close that finish was. That was one of the best finishes we've had so far. There is your podium. Todd Bodine gets his first career win in the NASCAR Nitro Series. And here are the race results, 1st through 20th. Todd Bodine's first career win. Bubba Wallace's first career podium. Kaz Grala's first career main event appearance. And these are your updated point standings. Ross Chastain now has a 139-point lead over Sterling Marlin. And here are your back markers. Martin Truex had a good day, moved up some spots. Kaz Grala moved out of last place into the race automatically at Indy. And always remember, hit that like button. Leave a comment, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. See you next time at the Brickyard 400.